Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's December, it's 21st of December, it's 2016, it's Wednesday. We have 8 basketball games to talk about here on today's slate. And as always, on Wednesday, we have the 3-man pod joined by Notorious. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good. You keep pronouncing my name wrong, though. It is Natoto.
Never going to live that down. Never going to live that down. And you guys heard the chuckle. SBK, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Just had a very healthy dinner. I know this is going to be good news for you guys, but I had a dinner filled with lots of vegetables. So,
all right,
what
did you have?
This needs to be like a weekly
chicken.
thing.
Yeah, I feel like I should just do a weekly vegetable update. There's really not much of an update. I've just eaten a lot more corn. We had some green beans tonight. It was good. Jordan made some awesome chicken. So I am full, man.
Oh, man. So there's so many jokes there. There's just so many jokes. I'm not going to do it. Jordan's a cool guy. I'm not going to go there, but there's just so many jokes there. Notorious, am I crazy? There's a lot of jokes there, right?
No, you're right. I mean, I'm not notorious, but I can tell you that's a fact.
Yeah, I want to hear some of these jokes, though.
No, we'll talk about them off air. But anyway, a lot to talk about here. First thing I want to mention is every day for the last few months, we've been talking about the sponsor, rosters.com. Just wanted to, talk about that real quick. They shut down here on Tuesday. Had a message from Cal over there on the Roto Grinders forum. If you guys want to read it, it's right there at the top. It's pinned. iTeam Network roster shutting down. So right now the podcast sponsor list, but it will happen Monday through Friday, still continuing to move on. It's just, sometimes things don't work out and they couldn't get the funding. The one good thing I do want to note is the site is still up. And if you have a balance on the site, it is very easy just to go there, withdraw. I was able to get my money, no issues. A lot of people, no issues. So that's always a good thing. But wish Gabe the best. Was really nice working with him. Really cool guy, really nice guy. And hope he stays in the industry for sure. But we have basketball to talk about. We have a game that was played last night, flipping over here, going to Cleveland. It went to overtime last night. We have Milwaukee at Cleveland. Kevin Love questionable. J.R. Smith hurt his thumb in that game, didn't return on Tuesday night, so he is questionable. You got the away teams, SBK. What do you think of the Bucks?
Well, it's going to be interesting for both these teams, just given the run that the starters saw. We saw Giannis with 44 minutes, Parker with 46. They're now on a road back-to-back, so it's definitely possible that we see somebody sit, rest. It's possible that we just see them kind of play minutes in the lower 30s, instead of seeing their typical minutes in the mid-30s. So I think you're running a risk here with some of these Milwaukee guys, even some of the, I think we saw Snell and Dellavedova up near the 40-minute mark. So we could see some of the bench guys get a little more run. If you're confident enough in Giannis and Parker to see their normal allotment of minutes, they're still fine targets. I don't think I'll be pulling the trigger on them in cash games, but they're both still fine in tournaments. If you're feeling crazy in tournament, Henson's still an option if you're trying to punt the center spot. But I think the Milwaukee side, just given, it's had an overtime game last night. They got to travel now, as do the Cavs. But I just don't think this is an area I'll be looking.
Nobody on the Bucks.
I mean, I think I'll have some tournament exposure to Giannis and probably maybe even a little bit more exposure to Parker in GPPs. But, I know the Cavs aren't the same defensive team we saw last year. It's not a bad matchup. And they'll also be tired. But it's always tough on the second night of the back-to-back when you see that kind of minutes to feel great about targeting those guys here.
All right. And then I don't mind Giannis here. He continues to play well against the Cavs, so I definitely like him here in this matchup. Kevin Love questionable, J.R. Smith questionable. Noto, what are we doing here with Cleveland?
Yeah, like SPK said, this could be a game where both teams just rest some guys. LeBron played 47 minutes. Kyrie played 45 minutes. So the last time the Cavaliers had the back-to-back, they sat pretty much everyone against the Grizzlies. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to break down until we know what they're going to do. If Kevin Love's healthy enough to play, I do expect him to be in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see LeBron or Kyrie end up getting the night off. And then, like you mentioned, J.R. Smith's questionable with that thumb injury. I guess the MRI was negative, but he could be out for a little bit. So, if one of the big three or two of the big three are out, we obviously want to target the other two. But it's more of a wait-and-see approach at this point.
Yeah, this is something we're going to have to monitor throughout the day. Hopefully, this game's 7 o'clock, so it's the early game. We'll get news. I could see possibly like LeBron and Kyrie sitting and Love playing, and then like you plug in Love to every lineup you make. So like I could see that kind of stuff happening here. But yeah, this game, we're just gonna have to watch the news here on this game. But it could be interesting. Memphis at Detroit, 185 total. Detroit favored by 6.5. Parsons questionable to return here. He dressed on Tuesday night, didn't play in the game, but questionable to make his return here. Memphis side, anything pique your interest, SBK?
Yeah, you were just noting Parsons. I think he's probably going to be active tomorrow night. I wouldn't expect him to see more than about 15 minutes of court time. He could get up to 20 minutes, but he's not really going to be an option. But if he is active, it makes that whole wing rotation a little more hard to predict. I think you can maybe look at Gasol in a tournament, but even his price is now kind of getting up there to where he doesn't have he still obviously has a massive ceiling, but he's at 8,100 on FanDuel. I'm not even sure how much I'm going to be looking towards him as a tournament play. I mean, the Grizzlies have a team total under 90 points. Both these teams are in the bottom 5 in pace, so I think I'm just going to be ignoring both sides. And there's 8 games here, but it'll probably be more like a 7-game slate for me.
Yeah, 2 of the better defensive teams in the league, both in the bottom 5 as far as fantasy points allowed per game. Anything you like here on the Pistons side, Notorious?
Yeah, not really. SPK pretty much stole all my stats that I was going to quote, so I won't repeat any of those. Yeah, it's just going to be a bad game environment overall. Reggie Jackson's been kind of a popular play recently, but he's an easy fade against Mike Conley, and he's still on his minute limit anyway. I may take a look at Andre Drummond in tournaments. He's coming off of one of his worst games of the season, but he is averaging 8.2 more fantasy points per game at home. And he did have 48 fantasy points against Marc Gasol and the Grizzlies at home last year. So if you're looking for a tournament play that's going to be really low owned, I don't mind Drummond. 7,400 on FanDuel and 7,100 on DraftKings.
Yeah, those are the type of plays that I like. Not a KCP fan this game, just so you guys know, so you guys don't tweet me. Minnesota at Atlanta, no total in this game. We're waiting to see if Dwight Howard plays in this game. That is why we don't have a line. Starting with the Minnesota side, man, Karl Anthony Towns has been a beast lately. What's your thoughts, SBK?
Yeah, he's been great. I think if we see D12 sit here, I think it's definitely a lock and load spot for Towns. He has been playing awesome. I think there's a lot of options on this Minnesota side as a whole. I think Wiggins and Levine, the wings here, are still squarely in play. Levine's price is creeping up now, so it's both sides are kind of making you think more about it. But he's been playing great too, and obviously him and Wiggins are both seeing humongous minutes. It's the Tom Thibodeau team. You're going to see those starters see a ton of run as long as the game stays remotely competitive. One of my favorite tournament plays, and this is probably one of the first times I've said this all year, is I think Ricky Rubio on FanDuel, still sitting in that mid-5 range. Atlanta is a beautiful matchup for point guards. Dennis Schroeder wasn't a great matchup for point guards last year, but he's kind of really taken a step back this season. He's given us some huge numbers to point guards. Rubio's minutes are, we're starting to see him consistently over that 30-minute mark, which is encouraging. He's just, he's not going to be a scorer. He doesn't have to be on this team, but he can rack up assists. Always going to give you a couple steals, a couple of rebounds. So at his current price, I think he's an excellent tournament play. So I think there could be some lineups that I have in tournaments with 3 Wolves, and I could see even having more than one of them in cash games. So Atlanta 5th in pace. We don't have a line for this one yet. The Timberwolves haven't been playing great, 3-7 in their last 10. So there's that, and there's the blowout risk in Atlanta. But if this game stays competitive, I like this Minnesota side.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind Rubio, a guy that I really like. If Dwight Howard is out, Karl Anthony Towns is just a lock and load type play. I'm with you there. Looking at the Atlanta side, Dwight Howard makes it tough, Notorious. Let's talk with Dwight and without Dwight. What you thinking here?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll hear an update on his status. It is a 7:30 tip-off, so hopefully we get that before lineups lock. I think if Dwight Howard plays, probably won't be looking to him. He's a tough matchup against Karl Anthony Towns, and then on the other side, Towns is going to have a tough matchup against Dwight. But if Dwight is out, I do expect the Hawks to go with a bigger starting lineup. They started Korver the other night. That was more of a matchup thing against the Thunder. They're not going to be able to do that with Jang and Towns in their front court. So I would expect Muscala to get the start, and he'd be one of the top value plays on the board for sure. And then otherwise, Dennis Schroeder, definitely in play. He's at least 34 fantasy points in 6 of his last 7 games. Wolves are not good against point guards, so if you want to target him and Rubio together, just watch both of them go at each other. Certainly don't mind that in tournaments. Zach Bazemore, 29 and 31 fantasy points in his last 2 games. Zach LaVine has one of the worst defensive real plus-minus scores in the NBA, so I like that matchup quite a bit. And then Paul Millsap and Thabo Sefolosha, both fine cash game options. Obviously, Millsap would see a big boost if Dwight's out.
Yeah, Sefolosha, a guy that I think I've talked about him every time since he moved into that starting role a couple weeks ago. But there's no reason not to talk about him. Since he's moved into that starting role, he's played at least 29 minutes in each one of those games, and he had a dud against Charlotte. Like, look past that dud, and his floor has been about 18 points since moving into the starting lineup. So I like Sefolosha, I like that call. If Dwight's out, I like the Millsap play, and there we go, Mike Muscala again. But I agree with you. I think they'd have to go bigger here against the Gorgeous Dong and Cat. But let's move on. Washington at Chicago, 207 total here. Chicago favored by 4. No injury news. And John Wall's good at basketball. What's your thoughts?
John Wall's great at basketball. He's been putting up some humongous numbers this season. He's getting up there in price. He's about where he should be now. I think he's still, I think Westbrook is going to be a guy I'm making a point to pay out for point guard, so I can't see Wall as a guy I'm really looking towards in cash games, but he's an excellent tournament play. As far as the other guys on the Washington side here, I'm not in love with Gortat. He's okay as a cash game option. As long as he's playing minutes in the mid-30s, he'd be fine for you in that regard. But as a tournament play, I don't like it. Chicago's second in rebounding rate this year. Pace team, and I could see Jimmy Butler finding his way on the Bradley Beal, so I think I'll be kind of avoiding both wings here, including Otto Porter. He's kind of bounced back. He had a really rough stretch about a week ago. He's kind of had some productive games in his last 5, at least kind of hitting value, not doing anything too exciting. So I think I'll be leaving the wings alone. Anytime we see Markieff Morris put up a dud when people are counting on him, it seems like he's like always the next night he's going to give you something nice. I don't mind the matchup with Taj Gibson here, especially if Beal has some trouble with Butler. I could see maybe a little bit more of the scoring load fall into Morris. So I think that's a potential way to look in tournaments, but I don't think I'm going to have a ton of exposure to the Washington side. I think Wall will eat up a lot of it.
Yeah, Keith exploded in this game earlier this season at Chicago, put up 48 FanDuel points in that game. So great bounce back spot for him. I'm definitely going to go right back to the well. He burned the world, and everybody was talking about it. So great spot to jump back up on, Keith. I don't mind Wall here. Beal and Porter, I'm with you. Tough matchups. I think I'll stay off of those guys. What's your thoughts here on the Chicago side, Noto?
Yeah, Chicago's always one of those teams that's tough to predict. This is a nice matchup, though. Wizards are ranked 22nd in points allowed per game and 21st in rebounding differential. I'll probably be full fade on Rajon Rondo, coming off of a huge game against the Pistons. I didn't see it coming. He had less than 25 in 4 of his last 6 games. Now his price is up on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So for me, kind of an easier fade. I like Jimmy Butler, even though Otto Porter is a pretty good on-ball defender. He's fairly matchup proof, and his price is down on FanDuel and DraftKings. So I like that. And then Robin Lopez, I like playing him in matchups where the opposing team has a true center, and we know Marcin Gortat's going to play 35 minutes or so. So I could see Lopez playing around 30 minutes and making a nice high-floor cash game option.
Yeah, Lopez had 29 fantasy points in this matchup. He was a guy that I had written down on my list, so I'm glad you mentioned him. I think I'm with you here on Rondo. Like, I missed out the other night, and I just don't feel like this is the spot to, like, just jump on it. Like, okay, it happened. I got burned by it, but, like, is it really going to happen again? I think the odds are in our favor for fading here. And then Butler, Wade, man, these guys are just okay, sure. Jimmy Butler's price just makes him tough to fit in my opinion. But, I can't say he's a bad play. So this next game, has a lot of goodness. So Oklahoma City at New Orleans, 209 total. Oklahoma City favored by 2. Oladipo already ruled out for this game. We'll start with the Thunder with Oladipo out. What are we going here?
Well, the Thunder are about one of the easiest teams to project, unlike the Bulls. I think, obviously we're going back to the well with Westbrook here. New Orleans, 27th against point guards. Drew Holiday is not really thought of as a bad on-ball defender, but I don't see him having really any chance at slowing down Westbrook. Nobody in the league really does. New Orleans is 10th in pace, so I think this game will stay. I hope this game will stay fairly competitive. I'm gonna have a ton of Westbrook. I don't, even with Oladipo out, I'm not in love with any of those wings. Roberson's been seeing huge minutes, but he's just not. He's not scoring. He's really not showing up on the stat sheet. It's kind of incredible how few fantasy points he's been putting up for the run he's been getting. I think the only other option on the OKC side is Steven Adams. He's been minutes. He's always in that 30-minute range. The Pelicans are the third worst rebounding team in the league, so there's we could definitely see a double-double here from Adams. Ennis Cantor has been held under 20 minutes, I think, in 8 of his last 9 games, maybe in 7 of his last 8. So Adams' minutes are pretty secure. I think it's Westbrook and Adams, and that's about it on the OKC side.
Yeah, Oladipo, with him being out, I've seen Adams get a nice little uptick in points. So I could see a couple little assists from Westbrook to Adams. Adams, one of the cheaper centers that I'm definitely going to be targeting here. It's hard not to play Westbrook. He's such an expensive player, Notorious. What's your thoughts on Westbrook?
Oh, yeah. I just play him every night. And, every once in a while he's going to have that dud. But the rest of the nights I'm just swimming in the money.
On Tuesday night, I went all in on Terrence Jones. It really paid off for me. You have the Pelicans here. What's your thoughts on Jones, Davis, and the Pelicans team?
Yeah, Jones is one of those guys that I don't play a lot just because I play mostly cash games. But if you're looking at tournaments, he's always a guy that can take over. Coming off the bench, he's got that high usage rate. And there's about a 20% chance Anthony Davis is going to get hurt at some point in this game. So you always get that added equity from Roster and Jones. But, no, I like this spot as a whole. They are playing in the second half of a back-to-back. But I do expect a lot of points to be scored in this one, and the spread's low, which is always nice for fantasy production. Drew Holiday in a really good spot. Best way to attack the Thunder is at point guard. He only played 30 minutes last night, so I think he's going to be fine in this one. I really like hopping back on him in tournaments, especially on DraftKings. And then Anthony Davis, yeah, he's been struggling. He did have that big game against the Sixers last night, but a lot of people do. I do want to point out he averages 18 more fantasy points at home than he does on the road, which is the biggest home road split in the NBA this season. So if you can afford him, I certainly like him for cash games.
Yeah, even in tournaments, though, like Drew Holiday on a back-to-back. Like I know he had a back-to-back against Houston and Indy earlier last week or just a couple days ago. But anyway, just at his price, it makes me really hard to play this guy. Davis, this guy. That's all I'm saying. Anthony Davis just makes me chuckle because, like you said, that he has a 20% chance of getting hurt. Can we bump that?
It might be higher, yeah.
So I don't mind Davis in tournaments, and then I'm going to play Terrence Jones again tonight, and hopefully this hot streak continues. But this next game is a game that we're going to spend some time on. We have Houston at Phoenix, 223 total. Houston favored by 5.5. Capella out for Houston. Kind of was interesting because they played the Spurs last night, SBK, and we kind of didn't really target these bigs. Well, I didn't. Kind of waiting to see what the rotation looked like. And Harrell got a few extra minutes, but that was really it.
Yeah, what was his minute total? What was his
22.
minute total at the end? 22. Yeah, that's a little bit higher than I had anticipated. I still think that front court is a little bit risky in terms of him and Nene. If we do see Nene sit second night of a back-to-back here, so I could see Nene sitting, and if Harrell were to see a couple more minutes of run, getting to that 25 range, he'd definitely be a potential tournament play. But there is a lot of goodness on the Houston side. We got 223 total here, a team total of about 114 for Houston. They've been playing great. They're 9-1 their last 10, just coming off of a loss to the Spurs, a game that one of those early games could have went to overtime. Obviously, James Harden, he's going from about one of the worst matchups to one of the best. We got the Suns second in pace. They are going to have very little shot at slowing him down, expecting another monster double-double from him. I'd kind of been going back on, if I was going to start with Harden or Westbrook, and I think it just kind of comes down to, if you're more comfortable with some of the other options, priced below them at each of their positions. I think in a vacuum, I'd go Westbrook, but if you kind of like some of those mid-range point guards a little bit better, paying off for Harden is certainly a fine way to go. Outside of him, Patrick Beverly still seeing fairly big minutes, still priced in that mid-5 range. Like we talked about last week, it's basically the same story here. He's in a pace-up game. He does not have maybe the ceiling that you're hoping for in a tournament, but with the minutes he's been playing, he's got a nice floor for cash games. I would be kind of surprised to see him miss value here. I would suspect we'll see a ton of time on Bledsoe. Trevor Ariza still, in that same relative price range as Beverly. He's fine. Basically the same kind of player. It's not necessarily someone you want to look towards in a tournament, but he's a fine cash game target. And even Ryan Anderson now, he's played 36 and 37 minutes in the last 2 games. I still don't know if I would feel completely comfortable with having a cash game, but at his price, I wouldn't knock you for doing it. He's definitely a nice tournament play, especially to get some exposure to what should be the highest scoring offense of the night. So it's really hard to go wrong here on the Houston side. I think if Nene plays, you kind of avoid him and Harrell. If he sits, you have yet another option on the board there. So I think this will probably be my most heavily targeted team of the night by far.
I could see playing Harrell even if Nene doesn't sit on FanDuel. 3,500, you're wanting to fit in Harden and Westbrook. If he's going to play 20-plus minutes in a much better matchup than San Antonio, he put up 19 fantasy points against San Antonio. What's he going to do against Phoenix? So I could get behind him. Another guy, Eric Gordon, coming off a tougher matchup, but he's been shooting the ball really well lately. High usage guy off the bench. I talk about that all the time. I like him. Obviously, James Harden, Patrick Beverly in play. Phoenix side of things here, Notorious. Tell me what you like.
Yeah, it's one of the best spots overall. They have the second highest implied total of the 8 teams that we have totals for right now. But it's just hard to trust any of them. Their rotation's inconsistent. It's pretty deep at times. Eric Bledsoe's been the most consistent of the bunch, but he has the worst individual matchup against Patrick Beverly. Houston Rockets are ranked 6th in DVP against point guards, and Beverly's been one of the best on-the-ball defenders in the NBA the last few years. I like the spot for Devin Booker. Obviously, shooting guards against the Rockets is going to be, a profitable thing, but he's been so inconsistent. I probably will only use him in tournaments. The price is cheap enough that I wouldn't hate it in cash games, but yeah, it's just risky. He has the ability to put up, 5-10 fantasy points any night. So PJ Tucker, I expect him to play a ton of minutes in this one if he can stay out of foul trouble. He's their best shot at stopping Harden, and he's probably going to be on him all game. So if he can stay out of foul trouble, he's kind of a sneaky value play. The rest of the guys, Marquise Chris has been seeing a nice boost in minutes lately, but I can't trust him. I'd rather target Nene or Harrell on the other side of the ball. And then Brandon Knight could see a little bit of extra run off the bench. I do expect both of these teams to play small. We saw Ryan Anderson play some 5 last night, and I think that could continue. And if that does, I think the Suns should play a little bit small ball back with them, and we could see a lot of Knight, Bledsoe, Booker lineups in this one.
Yeah, if we see the news that Nene's out, you definitely got to think this game's going to go small. So I could definitely see that as well. Chris was getting a minutes bump because Len was out. Ever since Len's come back, they've kind of split minutes. So I think the Chris value minutes are kind of gone there. So I'm with you there. PJ Tucker's sneaky. I like that call a lot. Anytime I can get some value against Houston, I'm always there. Devin Booker. Oh, that's this guy. You cannot not like him here, right? Like you said, Bledsoe's going to get Beverly. So, Booker and Knight, you're going to have some hedge life with some Knight if you're playing Booker tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, one of the two is going to go off. Probably, maybe even both of them go off. So I'll definitely have exposure to both. I don't know if I can trust either of them in cash games, but Booker's probably my favorite play of the two.
Oh, man, this next game, just looking at this game already gives me a headache. Sacramento at Utah, Rudy Gay questionable, Caspi questionable, George Hill doubtful. What are the Kings thinking? Why would you bench Temple after the way he's been playing?
Oh, yeah, don't get me started. Temple and Cash. Ugh.
9 minutes so far, and as of this taping right now, there's 3 minutes left in the third. He's seen 9 minutes. He has 3 fouls, so that could be partially attributed, but
no, it has nothing to do with fouls. Why bench the guy?
I don't.
Yeah, it's an interesting call. It's the Kings, man. What are you gonna do?
It is the Kings. It's almost as bad as the Nuggets. But anyway, you have the Kings here, SBK. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, this is probably a spot we avoid if Gay and Caspi are back. Gay, he's probably legitimately questionable here. Casby's dealing with an illness. He hasn't played, I think, since the 16th. So it's I don't know what kind of illness he's got going on, but it sounds pretty serious. So I would expect to maybe see one of them back tomorrow. If they both sit again, I think Cousins is still an option. I mean, even against an extremely tough Utah front court, just volume alone here could get him past. So. If he's going to be the lone real scoring threat on the court, I think you have to still consider him regardless of matchup. I know this is obviously going to be a humongous pace down game. Well, not really. The Kings are also pretty slow pace, but Utah second in defensive efficiency. So definitely not a good spot for the Kings by any means. But if Cousins is going to shoot the ball 30 or 35 times, it's going to be hard for him to not put up a decent stat line. He's had a monster night so far here. Obviously, him on a road back-to-back is always a little scary. But if Gay and Cassidy sit again, I'm going to have some tournament exposure. But outside of that, that's about it. I think maybe if Temple moves back in the starting lineup, you can give him a look. But other than that, I'm just staying away from the rest of the Kings.
Yeah, I think the Kings are an easy fade tonight. Utah allowing the least amount of fantasy points per game. You with me there, Notorious? Are we just fading them?
Yeah, I typically fade everyone against the Jazz. I haven't faded the Warriors tonight, but speaking of the Warriors, they just put Kevin Durant back in. They're up 30 with 9 minutes left in the fourth.
They do that all the time.
They're just asking for an injury, and then
they do it all the time. Like Durant plays to like the 5-minute mark in blowouts all the time.
I don't get it. But yeah, on the Jazz side, these two teams played in a similar situation last week, and I believe the spread was around 9 or 10 points. So I expect that to be the case again here. Both teams are playing in the second half of back-to-back. Derek Favors will likely be back. He was rested last night, but he's not seeing enough minutes to warrant fantasy consideration. Gordon Hayward's always a fine play. It's not the best spot for him, but it's not the worst either. My favorite play here is Rudy Gobert. His last matchup against the Kings in that game that I talked about, he had 17 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 blocks against DeMarcus Cousins. So definitely a guy you want to look at in tournaments. He's only 7K on DraftKings. If you look at his game log, he's just been crushing it recently, and not a lot of people play him. So I definitely like him in tournaments.
And they're getting run out the gym, aren't they? 94-60.
Yep.
Let's throw out that game from the Jazz last night because they got blown out. So, and I had so much Hayward. But anyway, I don't like this game in general. Like I just don't like this game. Gobert would be the one guy that I think I'm with you there, but with Favors back, even if he only plays 15, 20 minutes, he still eats into Gobert's production a little bit. So like, it's a tricky situation. I think that this is a game that I'm probably just going to stay away from. I think I've played more guys from Memphis, Detroit than I would Sacramento and Utah. And
no. What do you think about Cousins in a tournament if Gay and Casby said? Do you think he'll have any exposure?
I might have a little. I mean, he really struggled against Gobert in that game. He usually can body up against guys and just get around them, but Gobert just got those long arms, which makes it really difficult. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, but I probably won't have much.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just Gobert's defense is so legit. Like, I'm just gonna fade it. It's just the price. Like, you could play Cat for less money. Like, even against Dwight, I would think I would rather have Cat against Dwight than I would have Cousins against Gobert at their prices.
Even with Gay and Caspi, I don't know. I think if you're looking for total points, I don't know. I think it's still close. But yeah, for with what you're paying, I think obviously Towns is the better option in that scenario.
Just saying, if I'm paying up, I think it's going to be Towns, but we'll see how it plays out. It all depends on Dwight too. Like that's big news. It makes it a lot easier if Dwight's out. Then you can just load up Cat. But last game of the night, we have Dallas at Portland. Bogut is ruled out already. Dirk questionable to return here. Evan Turner questionable. Aminu questionable for the Portland side. Dallas with Dirk questionable and Barea back. What are we doing here?
Yeah, this is a really nice spot for the Mavericks. It's kind of a shame that we're seeing Dirk and Barea. Barea, we saw he played his first game. He played 2 nights ago. Portland 6th in pace, 26th in rebounding rate. They're dead last in defensive efficiency. So this is a great spot, especially for this is a humongous pace up spot for the Mavs. It's one of the slowest pace teams in the league. The one spot that they do defend well on the floor is a point guard spot, which is a little bit surprising. But I still think Deron Williams is a tournament option. He had been seeing minutes in the mid-30s before Brea's return. Even with Brea seeing about 15 minutes, I believe, we still saw Williams creep over that 30-minute mark. So I think he's a tournament option. It's obviously I would like it a lot more if we didn't have to worry about Brea. We still got Devin Harris there too. So I think that I may have a little bit of exposure to Deron, but if so, it's going to kind of be a last guy in the lineup type thing. But other than that, I still think Wesley Matthews is still locked into the big minutes. Same with Harrison Barnes. They're both very scoring dependent. Obviously, Barnes might give you a little bit more in the rebounding department. But Matthews, he's had a nice last 2 weeks or so. He's still definitely not priced out, especially given this spot. A little revenge narrative for him there too. So I definitely like Matthews. I think Barnes is, he's a fine cash game option. I don't love it as a tournament play, even with as porous as Portland has been on the defensive side. I think if Dirk sits, I think you can maybe look at Dwight Powell in a tournament, but I think I'll mainly be funneling my exposure to the wings here, sticking with Matthews and Barnes. And, I love the spot for the Mavs as a whole, but I think those are probably the only two guys I'll have much exposure to.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I like this spot a lot for Barnes. Matthews locked into minutes. Like, I think you could go back to Mirji here. He really struggled in that game, but it was Gobert got him in foul trouble early, and he played a lot of he played 20 minutes or 13 minutes. He was in foul trouble that whole game. So decent bounce back spot for him here. We like centers against Portland. They really do struggle against centers. So if you're going cheap, if you're just punting the center position, he's the guy that I would probably look at. Portland side, you like Lillard here?
Yeah, if you look at the DVP, the Mavericks are ranked first against point guards, so I'm not really trusting that, though. They've had a turnstile of a number of different guys starting at point guard for them this season. Deron Williams, not a great defender at this point in his career, has a negative defensive real plus-minus on the season. So I like Lillard. His price is only $8,400 on DraftKings, which just seems way too cheap. CJ McCollum also has a pretty decent matchup against Wesley Matthews. So I don't mind both the guys in the backcourt. Maurice Harkless has kind of been my go-to guy in cash games when I need a cheap small forward. And then Mason Plumlee, he's had some really big games this season. His minutes are kind of all over the map, but we did see Jokic put up over 50 against Mejri the other night. So I think you can look at him in tournaments. He's kind of one of those high upside guys that doesn't get a lot of run by many players.
I don't even have to say anything. You just nailed that so much that I don't even have to say anything. We're done. That's the Dallas Portland game. That's the 8-game slate. I forgot to tell you guys, but before earlier this week, Monday, we finally decided on a basketball game. We've done home run derby for baseball. We do 300, 100, 100 for football. And now we have a basketball game where we pick a guy 5X, we pick a guy that we like to go 6X, and we pick a 7K plus guy on DraftKings that we think is going to go 4X or less for a bust play. And it's snake draft style, and we each get one veto. So it makes the game fun. We're going to keep track of how it goes throughout the year and see who comes out on top. It's going to be me against Siege and then me against you two. And then I guess you guys versus each other as well. So let's see. How are we going to determine the order here?
So go over the rules again real quick. The picks.
You got to pick a 5X, a guy you feel like is going to have the best chance to go 5X, a best chance to go 6X, and a 7K or more guy that you feel like is going to go 4K or less, or 4X or less.
Okay.
As a must.
Any price points for the first two?
Any price points. Yep.
All right.
Let's see. Who said they were going to – all right, Noto, you said you were going to take home. So you pick that. So SBK, you get first pick. Noto, you go second. I'll go last here.
Okay. What am I picking first?
You get.
What did you told us about this before the show, man? Now I'm so prepared.
Listen,
on the spot.
That's how I like to do things. Put you guys on the spot. But it's an open board. You can take your 5X guy, your 6X guy, or your bust first.
Okay, I want my 6X guy first. I'm gonna go Rubio.
All right.
I haven't even seen his DraftKings price yet. This is how unprepared I am for this. Not bad, 5,800. All right, I'm comfortable with it. Let's roll it.
All right, Noto, open board.
All right. I'll take a 6X guy. I'll go Robin Lopez.
Oh. All right. Now I get to take 2 guys. Let's see here. See, I'm unprepared too. I don't have my picks ready.
Oh, at least you knew what the format was.
That's right. I did. I sense a little.
Oh man,
I sense a little.
Well, I'm hunting here now.
our picks are gonna be
sometimes. At least that's good. No, I like the Rubio call. I think I'm comfortable with that.
My 5X guy is going to be Eric Gordon,
Okay.
and my 6X guy is going to be. Hold on, I need to see his price first. Oh God, why does it have to be so expensive? I can't do that. I was gonna take Harrison Barnes, but he's too expensive.
Yeah.
no, yeah, take Barnes.
No, I'll pass.
This is ugly.
I know. My 6X guy's gonna be Brandon Knight.
Interesting call. Okay.
He's too
I like
cheap.
that one.
He's only 4K on DK.
All right.
That's nice.
Back to you, Neto.
All right, so can I switch Robin Lopez to my 5X guy?
No.
Come on, man.
That's not how
You
this
locked
works.
it in, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how this works. This is a
Well-
game, man. I'm not letting you have a freebie.
No, I'm saying. All right, fine. Give me Montrezl Harrell for my 5X guy. I wanted to switch those two. That's fine. They're both gonna hit 6X.
All right, well, I'll lock them both in for 6X then.
Yep, do it. Confident.
All right, SBK, you got your 5X and your bust left.
All right. I'm gonna go 5X. I'm gonna go Wesley Matthews.
All right. And your bust has to be over 7K.
Okay, over 7K. All right. Let's take a look. And what is you said under 4X? You said.
Under 4X.
Oh, geez. All right. What are we looking at? I want to go Cousins. I don't. It's I don't have the gay news in front of me now, obviously now, but I'm not.
This is the guy that was arguing that Cousins was a tournament play.
Well, he's also very expensive, and there's a chance he busts against Gobert. So, and we do not have the gay news yet. So I think there's that also. Man, part of me wants to go Drummond, but I do not like. Really.
We got him all flustered here.
I don't know, man. All right, for the sake of not taking forever, I'm going to go Cousins, even though I'm not happy about it. Let the record show I'm not happy about this pick. So if it does bad, it doesn't count. If it does good, it still counts. I like those rolls.
Oh, man. All right, Notorious. Who's your bust?
All right, so there's not a lot of guys that really stand out. I'll go with Marc Gasol. Kind of a tough matchup against Drummond, and he played 37 minutes last night. So I'll go with Gasol.
All right, and I'm gonna make a ballsy one. I'm gonna go LeBron.
Well, does a zero count if he rests?
No, I get my 0. That's
What? I want Kyrie Irving, man.
Yeah, you're really going out on a limb there, man. Jeez.
If LeBron doesn't play,
Risk taker.
I'll switch it to Eric Bledsoe.
Okay, that's fair.
A Blitz. That's a good one right there.
That's
Against
not-
Beverly.
Yeah.
That's really
yeah.
That's gonna do it. No more value plays, so we don't have to talk about that. And Notorious, you always like to post questions on Twitter, so we actually have way too many. You're keeping me from my beauty sleep, man. All right, let's see here. Where does it start? Hold on, give me a second. I gotta keep scrolling here. Why did the Kings bench Temple? Yeah, I wish I knew that too.
It's a terrific question. I wish I didn't answer that also. I had quite a bit of exposure to him.
All right, this Notorious question's for you. Best Utah UT ever: Tom Chambers, Andre Miller, Bogut, or Van Horn?
So it's kind of sad that those are our 4 best guys here. I'll go Tom Chambers though. He was pretty good in the NBA.
All right, I'll throw this question to you, SBK. Best center play: studs all seem to have tough matchups. Pay down, Chandler, Gortat, Adams? Question mark.
Chandler, Gortat, Adams. Yeah, I don't mind Adams. Like we were talking about earlier. I think if we see Howard ruled out, I think Towns will be the high end option I have the most exposure to. But if you're looking to punt the spot, I think Adams is fine. Like we talked about earlier, Pelicans do not rebound the ball well. They also are fairly fast paced, so we could see a lot of rebound opportunity here. And like you noted, with Oladipo out, we've seen a little bit of a scoring uptick for Adams there too. So you can definitely see a double-double there, and what he's priced around the industry, that's going to be enough.
All right, this question tilts me with my 287 on DK with Herman Gomez 0. Why the hell did I think Herman Gomez was a good play is the question. It tilts me so much to have a 0 at 287.
What's his last name?
He played 2 minutes?
Yeah, he played 2 minutes. Hernan Gomez, right?
Yeah, you said Herman Gomez, and that just like would be a hilarious name.
That's what it's spelled on Twitter. That's why it threw me off. But it's Hernan Gomez.
Hernan Gomez, yeah.
I actually get that one right. I know that one.
Yeah, leave him alone, SPK.
Yeah, man.
Hey, man, he's had so many great ones. Like we're building. So in the national office, we have a wall of shame. You're already on there, and you'll probably have a few more spots, like a couple more months of these podcasts. So I'm sure we'll get another couple of good ones.
Well,
Riley, who you both know very well, is. Go ahead.
No, can we put you on there for mentioning a name wrong earlier?
What name did I mention wrong?
You kept saying Giannis's name wrong.
What? No way, dude. When Giannis came into the league, I made sure I knew how to say that name. I made sure I knew how to spell that name. I don't mess around with names, man.
You said Darren Williams.
Yeah, you said Darren Williams wrong.
I do that. Yeah, but that's just like how I talk, though. I don't think that's like. I think I know it's Duran, but I just can't really say it like that.
All right, Notorious, this question's for you. How much Shelvin Mack is too much Shelvin Mack?
Well, in that spot the other night, you couldn't get enough of Shelvin Mack. If SPK doesn't like him, that's when you know he's a good play.
All right, SPK, do you like Shelvin Mack tonight?
If I had $1 for every time I rostered Shelvin Mack, I would have $0, and that's probably the same amount you're going to end up with tonight if you do play.
That's pretty good.
Everything.
I'll let either one of you take this question. New to NBA, having a hard time in reviewing, separating process from results. Do you have any?
Did you say that again?
Review. He's having a hard time like separating process from results. Like, you know what he's talking about. Like, you have a process on how you're building your lineups, and then you get the results at the end of the night. He's having a hard time in NBA separating the process and then the results.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you definitely can do. I mean, it kind of also depends, like, how much NBA are you watching? Like, if you are really paying attention to the games as they're going on, you can kind of figure out, I mean, you can also do this from the box scores, but to a lesser extent. If you're watching the games, you can kind of figure out why certain things, went the way they did. And I think there's a lot of times when, like, I'll see just little things in games I'm watching that, a week later, a situation will arise where, like, you can kind of exploit it. So I think actually watching the games and being able to figure out why, did this guy sit because he was in foul trouble? Did this guy sit because he was getting, they were exploiting him on the defensive end? I think that's kind of an important part. Also, I mean, I wouldn't just go, if you're trying to see, what you did wrong, I wouldn't start by going and seeing the GPP winning laps each night. You're going to see some wacky things there. But I mean, if you're putting in time and if you're paying attention to the games as they're going on and making sure you're staying in the loop with why things are happening, I think over time you'll pick up enough to where you can become an effective player and make effective decisions.
I think the biggest difference between all the other sports and basketball is the coaches are so hard to understand and figure out in basketball compared to other sports. Like baseball, you almost know if a guy's going to play 9 innings. In football, a guy's going to play unless he gets hurt. So, like, that's the biggest thing for basketball for me is it's something that I still struggle with today. Like, Denver is the hardest thing to figure out ever because Malone's an idiot. But anyway, is the Utah matchup really worth that much of a price drop for Boogie? How is he in back-to-backs with travel? Kind of talked about this a lot. Any final thoughts on this, Notorious?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely more in play on DraftKings than anywhere else. I kind of do like that they have that dynamic pricing that kind of makes those guys in bad matchups more interesting. But, his back-to-back numbers aren't terrible this year. But I don't think I want to play him more for the matchup against Gobert than anything else.
We talked about the Cavs. Is Rubio cash play versus the Hawks? I'll let you take that one, Notorious.
Yeah, I think so, especially on DraftKings. Like we mentioned, He's been seeing more minutes lately. And if you look at their starters, all 4 or 5 of their starters have averaged at least 35 minutes in the last 5 games. So Tom Thibodeau's back to his classic coaching style of just running his players into the ground, which is great for fantasy production.
It's always a good thing for fantasy production. I'll let you take this one, SBK. How do you fellas start your lineups for GPPs?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think when I start, I'm kind of, especially in tournaments, if I'm rostering more than like 2 or 3 players from one team, I'll kind of want to do like a game stack. And especially if I'm building a handful of teams, that's usually where I'll start, is to say, we'll look like, if I was building a lineup for tonight. And I actually did attempt to build a tournament lineup. First thing I did was plug James Harden into a lineup. Also had Patrick Beverley in there. Did not throw anyone from the Suns in. I think we kind of noted how they're a tough team to target with, even as good a spot as they're in. But I think I like to kind of pick a game and kind of maybe mini stack it, or even completely stack it with 4, 5, or 6 guys maybe. But I think I like to kind of pick a game and start with that, and then generally build out from there. If I start a game with where I'm rostering a bunch of high end options, I'll typically my next step will be to try to find a couple of value plays that can kind of give me a little bit more cap space to work with, and vice versa. So that's usually how I go about it.
Yeah, I made a uber mistake on Tuesday. I made a rookie mistake. I had 3 Cavs in a lineup with nobody from the Bucks, and that shit happens. But anyway, do us all a favor and never roster Jokic again. Yes, I warned you guys. I've not gotten him right all season. I said I was going to play him today, and you guys shouldn't have played him. Obviously, that's just Denver. But anyway, Watson has no problem playing Knight in the second unit for long stretches. Do you think Knight's a good value play, SBK?
I don't think he's a bad value play. I actually had some exposure to him on Monday. He saw minutes in the mid-20s. He did put up a decent line. He met value. It's just kind of hard to predict what the Suns are going to do. They're still very young. Obviously, they have quite a few options in the backcourt. I would kind of like to see. I know they have some options in the front court there, but the Sixers are very eagerly looking to deal one of their bigs, even like maybe a Noel for Knight. And, you can mix some draft picks in there, something like that. I think his best avenue for fantasy value will be getting out of Phoenix. But as far as DeMar Knight goes, I think he's a potential value play. There's definitely some upside there, especially where he's priced currently. But while his ceiling is very high, his floor is also very low. So just know that, kind of know that going in.
Notorious, does it shock you that we have like no Philly on this slate, and they've been mentioned like 5 or 6 times on this podcast?
I wonder where SBK's from.
I'm telling you, not shocking at all. All right, Noto, this question's for you. Do you play more head-to-head or double ups? I'm trying to build a bankroll.
So if I didn't have, the name Notorious, I would play more head-to-heads, but nobody ever takes my head-to-heads, and I don't really like scooping people. So I play mostly double-ups for cash games. But for newer users, if you can get, head-to-head action, especially on DraftKings, on sites where you can limit the amount of opponents that, take your games, I would definitely do a lot of head-to-head action.
Different time for me, man. I built my bankroll on 3-mans, 5-mans, and 100 tournament. Man, those are the days. Oh, this is definitely a question for you, Notorious. How is it your wife beat you to the ship in the season-long league?
Yeah, so first off, she didn't beat me. I lost to another guy, and she won. Anyway, she's in the championship, so wish her the best of luck. She's got her boy Aaron Rodgers on her team, so yeah, wish her luck this weekend.
There's not even no trash talk coming from Notorious. Smart married man right there, my friend. This question makes me laugh. So have you ever been bad beat because a guy, example Ronnie Hood, had mad butt?
Mud butt.
Oh, it's mud butt. That's even better.
I don't get the question.
Yeah, wait, what happened? What happened with Ronnie Hood? Did I miss something? Something go on there?
Read it again.
All right.
Yeah, please do.
So have you ever got this? Oh, Notorious, these questions. I swear you get these you have like accounts where you send these in. But so have you ever been bad beat because a guy, example Rodney Hood, had mud butt?
Yeah, I have for sure.
You missed that news. You missed that news, SPK.
I think I didn't. Is this tonight?
Yeah, Rodney Hood would not return to Tuesday's game against the Warriors because he has gastric distress.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that label. That's always a funny one. You really never know what that one means. Yeah, I definitely gotten burned by the gastroenteritis. Yeah, quite a few times, unfortunately.
Yeah. He got burnt by it too.
Yeah. Not definitely not a fun way to lose, or not a fun way for Rodney Hood to not be able to come back in the game either, I guess. But yeah, nothing feels worse than losing a player due to injury when it's not even actually an injury.
All right, last question before we get out of here. This is a Stevie House debate right now. Family debate: white lights on your Christmas tree or color lights on your Christmas tree?
Oh, I'm a color guy, man. I like the color. Although, I think you can mix them all in. Why do you got to pick one? Why can't you just get some white and get some colors?
This is the debate right now. My future brother-in-law is super like you have to have just white lights on your Christmas tree. I have the color lights on my tree.
He's marrying your sister?
No, I'm marrying his sister.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's not a problem. But otherwise, you would probably want to look closer into this guy. He sounds like a little dangerous. Only white lights on a Christmas tree?
Only white lights. SPK. All right.
Particular, man.
What do you got, Noto?
Yeah, man, teach their own. I got white lights, but that's just because I got white. They're already hooked into the tree, so I just plug it in. I don't even have to decorate it.
You don't get a real
lazy.
No, I don't. I mean, I would love to have a real tree if they, cut it down, dropped it off at my door, watered it, took it out for me. I would love a real tree.
This guy right here.
Take it out for a walk. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Oh man. On that note, like I can't do anymore. Like no real Christmas tree. So that's pinned at my profile at CVTPFL on Twitter. Make sure you guys get your votes in, and if you don't vote color, don't go on there because I want to win this debate. Anyway, any final thoughts before we get out of here, SPK?
Nope, man, it was fun. I'm surprised we ate up almost an hour on an 8-game slate that went by pretty quick. That's pretty impressive on our part.
Yeah, just thank Notorious for that. Notorious, I'm not letting you have final thoughts because you made people submit questions, and that cost me.
He was late today. Can we point that out? That I wasn't the one that was late, and somebody else was, just like the regular show.
Listen, he was not late. He was here.
Oh! Stevie was on my side pre-show. Now he's a flipper flopper.
I saw his pictures show up in the bottom of our screen.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know what that meant. I'm not a Hangouts pro. I didn't really know what that meant. I figured that meant he was coming, but I didn't know is he here? Why can't we hear him?
SPK, you were 15 minutes late last week. Let's just be honest. It was awful. 13. It was the worst thing ever. It cost me sleep, and I was grumpy the next day. Katie did not like you at all. So that's it. Notorious, I'll let you have final thoughts and send us home here.
Yeah, make sure to get in a bunch of questions for Stevie next week for next week's show. He loves them. And, maybe we'll do a 2-hour podcast next week.
All right, guys, that's going to do it here for the Wednesday edition. Merry Christmas to you both. We'll see you guys again next Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow with the NFL edition of the Morning Grind podcast. Good luck in your contest tonight, and we'll see you then.